Hi, my name is Rick Edgeman, and I'm professor and chair of the Management Department of Forte State University in the state of Kansas. My prior roles include as Shingo Institute Research Director in the John M. Huntsman School of Business at Utah State University, professor of Sustainability and Enterprise Performance at Aarhus University in Denmark in its Department of Business Development and Technology, and also as honorary professor of Engineering Operations Management in the Faculty of Engineering, specifically the Department of Technology and Innovation at the University of Southern Denmark. Today, I'm coming to you more in my role as an expert on the Shingo model and its application. So we're looking at just a portion of that model today. The portion of that model that we're looking at will be 2 of 10 principles that come from one of 4 dimensions of the model. That particular dimension is cultural enablers, and the 2 principles that we will focus on are from that dimension. They are respect every individual and lead with humility. Overall, the Shingo model looks like this. The model itself is the portion that looks more or less like a baseball diamond that you see setting up here in this upper corner. So at the center of it all, the pitcher's mound, if you will, or the heart of the model is culture. Enterprise culture, which is composed of behaviors, values, beliefs. Surrounding that would be results, because every organization is driven to provide results for its critical stakeholders. Results are produced through systems, through tools, but every enterprise itself and its culture are driven by guiding principles. Now, of course, there may be many guiding principles that any given organization adheres to. The Shingo model provides 10 guiding principles that adherents to its model embed in their organizational culture. So what we see is those 10 principles now in this pyramid. And in the pyramid, you see 4 primary dimensions of the model. You see cultural enablers, the one that we're going to focus on today, which has 2 principles: lead with humility and respect every individual. Continuous improvement, with 5 principles, will be the focus of another presentation. Its 5 principles are flow and pull value, assure quality at the source, focus on process, embrace scientific thinking, and seek or pursue excellence, seek perfection. Enterprise alignment will have 2 principles: create constancy of purpose and think systematically, and finally results will be create value for the customer, although we will consider that more deeply, more broadly, as create value for stakeholders. There are 3 deep insights of enterprise excellence that emerge. Those deep insights are that ideal results that the enterprise wants to produce are driven by or require ideal behaviors by the people in the organization. That those ideal behaviors are driven by purpose and systems. And principles inform ideal behaviors. So overall, if you look at this presentation, there will be a few learning objectives, 5 specifically. One is to understand the Shingo model, and in particular its dimension of cultural enablers. A second is to strengthen your understanding of relationships among behavior, systems, and principles. A third is to learn how systems and behaviors drive results. Fourth, to understand behavioral benchmarks behind the principles, lead with humility and respect every individual. And the fifth, if we were doing this as part of, let's say, a larger workshop, perhaps 2 days, would be to use go and observe. That is to go to the Gemba, go to the place where the work is actually done in any given enterprise, to understand the practical application of the cultural enablers dimension. Of course, we won't be doing that in what will amount to probably a 30-minute presentation. So there are 2 dimensions. Respect every individual, there are 2 principles of this dimension of cultural enablers. Respect every individual, lead with humility. And I corrected myself because the language of the Shingo model is specific. There are dimensions. There are 4 dimensions: cultural enablers, continuous improvement, enterprise alignment, and results. Those are the dimensions, each with its own set of principles. The principles attached to cultural enablers: respect every individual, lead with humility. So this is a big portion of an enterprise's culture. Culture is the way that we think, act, and interact. Let's take a quick look at a video, and there will be several videos that are embedded in this presentation. Let's see what we learned from this one. My recommendation is take careful notes, stop the video when you need to, jot down thoughts. Always ask yourself, what is the central message of a video? Ask yourself if there are 2 or 3 things that really spoke to you that come out of the video. And then ask yourself, what, if anything, might you take back to your enterprise and put in place to help it advance and help yourself do better as well.
My name is Sheila Montney. I'm with State Farm Insurance in Bloomington, Illinois. I serve as Assistant Vice President for the Life, Health, and Mutual Funds product lines at State Farm. Cultural enablers is made out of 2 principles of the Shingo model, and these principles are foundational to the rest of the Shingo model dimensions. Dimension 1 includes lead with humility and respect every individual. And both of those are important and are supported by many concepts that help us as leaders, as managers, and as associates identify what ideal behavior looks like under each of those principles.
I'm Tony Hayes, Director of Global Continuous Improvement at Hayworth in Holland, Michigan. Leading with humility is probably one of the most difficult principles for leaders to accommodate, really, because leaders have a propensity to come into an organization, they want to solve problems very quickly, and really have all the answers when it comes to going into the workplace. And leading with humility requires this vulnerability for leaders to really go into the organization, support members, and drive member engagement. I'm Harry Hertz, Director Emeritus of the Baldrige Performance Excellence Program, Director of the program for over 20 years, with a very long-term interest in organizational improvement and high performance. I think high performance starts with the leaders of the organization. They set the tone for the organization. Their ethical guidance, their display of the values of the organization are what drive the organization, set the tone for the culture of the organization. And if they walk the talk of the values of the organization, it's easy to build trust and build a high-performing culture. If they misstep, culture disappears overnight.
I am Morgan Jones, Head of Group Productivity from the Commonwealth Bank of Australia, based in Sydney. I was brought up in Africa, and through family connections, there used to be a greeting. The Zulu has a greeting which is Sono Bono, which means I see you, literally translated. But what it actually means is I see all of you. I see your past, I see your current, but I also see your potential. And for me, that is why I really aligned to the principle of respect every individual, because it's about not only seeing the individual as they are today, but their potential, and seeing how much capability and potential they have for the future. And the importance of that principle, how it links and drives the right behaviours of the individuals, and therefore what that overall impact is on the culture, because the culture is what drives the organisation and ultimately the results.
So the people that you just saw, Harry Hertz was the longtime director of the Malcolm Baldrige National Quality Award Program. The Baldrige program is America's gold standard for quality. The Shingo model is a global standard. The Shingo Prize is a global standard. It's a global standard in the sense that every organization from around the world is eligible to pursue the Shingo Prize for Operational Excellence, whereas the Baldrige Award is limited to the United States. And similarly, the EFQM Excellence Award is another, an alternative quality award model, and that is associated with European Union Award, or European Union members. So one of the things that we have to think about is this, that we have to throw overboard the idea that competition is a way of life. In place of competition, we need cooperation, co-opetition. So ordinarily we think about basically competition as dog eat dog. We don't think of it as coming alongside one another collaboratively in areas that work to our mutual advantage. And that's something that we're just going to have to do more and more in the future. As I'm recording this, we're in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic of 2020. So think about the sort of cooperation, the public-private partnerships and so on, that are called for in these times to try and make the entire nation behave and function a bit more positively than we have been to this point in time. You're going to have companies that have been rivals, let's say, or competitors, as we might say in business, that now are going to have to cooperate to try and produce a better result for all of us. So the new economics, something that was associated with the guru of all gurus in quality, Dr. W. Edwards Deming, said that all of the qualities that we've been traditionally and erroneously applying to competition actually apply better to cooperation. Cooperation that builds character. It's basic to human nature. It makes learning more enjoyable and productive. And in fact, it's broadly practiced in Japan among a lot of Japanese businesses that are competitors in some ways through a practice called kaiosei, literally living and working together for the common good, because they see the advantages that accrue when you live and work together to apply something bigger than you could ever accomplish by yourself. Let's see how things work at Autoliv. Autoliv is a Swedish-American company, and they produce airbags for motor vehicles. They do much more than that, but let's see how things are practiced at Autoliv.
I enjoy coming to work every day because I just love what I do. The changes, new improvements, ideas, going to different areas and seeing other things and taking it back to my area, and the operator's like, yeah, let's do it. And I love it. It's fun. When I present something for my people and we stop production, take care of it right then and there, you can just feel the strength. And I do my job, everybody else does their job, my management will be there for me. Kaizen comes in, we implement it, we give it a try, and we keep improving from that point on. We never go backwards to where we started from. And it's to make their job easier and make them happier at what they do.
So when you've heard her mentioning Kaizen, Kaizen is often interpreted as continuous improvement. And continuous improvement is oftentimes thought of as incremental improvement. The word Kaizen actually implies improvement of any magnitude, ranging from small increments on up to things that are monumental in scope. So let's take a look at what Stephen Covey had to say. Stephen Covey was a management guru who died around 2012 in a mountain biking accident, but he was definitely a management consultant who focused on principles, on behaviors. Said a cardinal principle of total quality escapes too many managers. You cannot continuously improve interdependent systems and processes until you progressively perfect interdependent interpersonal relationships. So for each principle that you have, search for the intrinsic value behind the principle by performing a 5 whys analysis. Now, if you're not familiar with 5 whys, then essentially you say, why are you doing this? And once you get an answer, you ask why and a more specific question 5 times. And the idea is that you use 5 why analysis to progressively drill down from something that's broad in scope initially to something that's highly detailed by the time you get to the base of it, so that you're understanding that core driver of what's happening. Now, Shingo, for whom the Shingo Prize and the Shingo Institute are named, said that know-how alone is not enough. You need to know why. All too often, people visit other plants only to copy their tools and methods without understanding why things work. So principles are know why. Systems, they are about know what, who, when, and where. Tools are about know how. So we need tools, we need to know how, but we also need to know what, who, when, where, and why. So think about those as the deeper questions that you're asking about each time you go from one why to a deeper level, 5 in all, let's say. And 5 is not a magic number, but it is a recommendation that you go that many levels deep. And finally, why is the principle of value to your organization? What difference does it make when people know how and know why, explicitly why? And so when we say each principle, we really refer to all 10 of the Shingo principles, or for that matter, any guiding principle an organization may have. But relative to this presentation, we're referring predominantly to respect every individual, lead with humility. You need to know why those are important, why those are critical. So one of the things you should ask yourself is for each principle, each of the 10 principles if you want to go deeper, but at least the 2 for cultural enablers. What did you learn about each principle from studying systems in your own organization? Are the systems in place that lead to respect of every individual? Are they systems in place that exhibit humility? What are some of the current beliefs that revolve around those principles? Because there are organizations that will think that respecting every individual and leading with humility show weakness. That isn't what they're intended to communicate. They're mistaking meekness for weakness. So what is meekness? Meekness, the root description of the word meek, is to meek a horse. And the picture is of a young stallion running with power but under control. And that's what we're trying to do here, is we're trying to lead with humility and respect every individual in ways that allow us to move forward powerfully but yet under control. So what are some of the current beliefs that are in your organization around those sorts of ideas? And how do those beliefs impact the behaviors in your organizations? So for Meiji Toyota, this is on one of the other Shingo principles, which is embrace scientific thinking, although I usually state it as embrace critical and scientific thinking. The society has reached a point where one can push a button and be immediately deluged with technical and managerial information, and that's great. It's all very convenient, of course, but if one is not careful, there's a danger of losing the ability to think. We must remember that in the end, it's not the individual human being who must solve the problems. It is the collaborative, the collective, although of course individuals may solve monumental problems from time to time. Generally, it's a more collaborative, collective approach to solving big problems, interdisciplinary teams, for example. Okay. So here's a common saying: respect existence or expect resistance. So respect existence means respect every individual. More like the Zulu translation or the Zulu saying that was mentioned in the video that you saw. So when you saw that, it was what? I see your past, I see your current situation, I see your potential. We try to look at every person in that way. That is respecting their existence. And if we don't, then why should we expect those individuals to value our guidance, to respect us as individuals? Hence, if we don't value them, we should expect resistance. So let's take a deeper dive into respecting every individual. So the means we use must be as pure as the ends we seek, a quote from Martin Luther King Jr. The business case, though, the why, the know why. When people feel respected, they give not only their hands, but also their hearts and their minds. Respect for every individual is manifested when organizations structure themselves to value each individual as a person, literally as an individual, and to nourish or cultivate their potential. But there are societal and individual implications here, which is that everyone has intrinsic value and untapped potential. And so part of what we're trying to do is to, by respecting every individual in the enterprise, to unlock that potential and to be able to take advantage of or leverage more of that intrinsic value that they have. Let's see what respecting every individual can look like.
One of the tactics that we've used to help show respect for every individual and coach them in order to bring out their best, to help serve our customers and meet the vision and values of the organization and delivering remarkable customer service, is to coach everyone on their unique and individual skill set. In order to do that, we've studied the coaching principles of Coach John Wooden, and we've learned so much from him in terms of how he showed respect for his players in knowing each so well as individuals, that his coaching style was tailored to that individual player in a way that then when he aggregated the group to a team, it brought out their collective best in delivering winning seasons for many, many years.
If you're respecting every individual, if people feel as though they can bring their whole self to work, if they feel as though they have opportunities to flourish and develop, they feel as though the conversations that they're having with their coach and their leaders are quality conversations, focusing on the right things, focusing on their development, then what you have is that they're bringing their best to every single call. We work in a contact center environment in my business, and treating each and every call as though it's the first call you've taken that day is pretty important. Treating each call with recognition of the significance of that call for the customer at the other end of the line is significant. And when you respect every individual, when that person feels as though they can flourish and they understand their significance, then they're essentially bringing their A game to every single call.
We want to make sure that everyone's background and differences are able to be brought to the table at Liberty Mutual to help us engage our workforce, be better at innovating, and really delivering exceptional value to our customers.
I would say at the end of the day, I see respect every individual as the platform for change. If we can't respect each other, we don't have trust. And if we don't have trust, we really can't move forward.
Let's see how this plays out at Barnes Aerospace, which was a former Shingo Prize winner.
It's the culmination of a long journey to where the entire workforce, in addition, under the leadership of Steve Moore, our division manager, have embraced the principles of leadership, humility, continuous improvement, and as they've done so, they've traveled on a journey which I think has now been validated by them winning the Shingo Prize. And I think it's a wonderful endorsement of the commitment, the energy, the passion of our employees, and the culture that we've worked so hard to develop.
If you take the principles, the guiding principles, and then couple them and compound them and overlap them with what we have called here at Barnes Aerospace is our true north, which is improving the lives of our employees, our customers, our shareholders, and the communities in which we live. And you put those together, you can create a culture that really spreads throughout the organization.
It's treating everybody with respect and dignity, and just trying to make it a great place to work. Nobody's above another person, even by their title. Everybody makes time for you. They're willing to listen to everything you have to say.
That's in our DNA. It's just what you do. It's, everybody treats each other with respect, and in turn you get that back.
The synergy that can start to take place once one person is respected with what they have to say, and then you just add on to everyone else here, and you'll get a good result. What I expect from my leaders, obviously, the very, very first thing is leading with humility. I don't expect my leaders to be the dictator in their areas. I want to make sure that they realize that the people working underneath of them have just as much knowledge and just as much power to change the facility as they do as a leader. Humility. They lead with humility. They're never too good for somebody. They don't act like they don't have time for anybody.
Culturally, that you have to engage in that we are people. Asset or objects, those are kind of dismissed here.
Most everybody in life views everybody as an object. Somebody to get something from, somebody to get something through, to get them to their personal agenda somewhere. But when you can transform that into viewing everybody as a person that has the same issues, highlights, lowlights, trials, achievements, successes as you, then you start viewing them, then that's really getting to know people.
It makes me humbled to be able to be a part of the team and be able to be their leader, because I understand them more on a personal level, and they don't look at me as the guy that comes around all the time and says, why aren't things getting done, and the sky is falling, and all those kinds of things. They look at me as an equal.
At first it was about the systems and the tools and making sure you have the right systems and the right tools for the right application. But really it's about the culture, and it's about the people and how those people are going to react to those tools and how they're going to use them.
We used to teach the how-to all the time. This is how you do the tool. You do it this way. And about 3-4 years ago, or maybe a little bit longer, when we started to study the Shingo model, our language started to change in the organization. We started spending, the CI leaders, much more time on the why we're doing it.
If you can go through and actually educate people, they're more receptive to that, and they strive to do better because they know that they are doing good, and it's about progressing. You go from a firefighter or a policeman or whatever for the factory to a coach or a mentor or a teacher.
My team is really a conglomeration of the whole, right? It's not just me. So if I'm telling them everything to do, they're just extensions of me. So my team is only as good as I can be. And now it's as good as 30 people can be.
If it's just a system that's driven without a culture behind it, your sustainment, it won't be there. It's self-evident. You'll go in and you'll do a Kaizen, or you'll go in and do an improvement activity, only to walk back a month later, and there's no evidence that anything was even done. Versus if you can engage the innovation of the associates and respect the individual of those processes to make improvement in their own area, sustainment's almost 100%.
Yeah. We put them together. We put the people side of it together with the production side and at equal, because they're equally important. You are in business to make money, but you're also in business to build people and develop people.
The culture becomes the foundation, really living true to those principles. I mean, they're everlasting, right? And so being true to those principles, it just continues that momentum and keeps it going. And hopefully the people and the customers outside of our building can see that.
If you're consistent in what you do with those principles, with the goal, the plan, the visual, and then the empowerment and the autonomy that you can give to your employees, those four things equal sustainment.
And the biggest fear is once we think that we've arrived, we just jumped off into the swimming pool of complacency, and we will get gobbled up by our competition.
You can't put the fires of the day, the chaos of the day in front of the culture that you're really trying to establish.
If someone's driving results, I would say to them, I will promise you better results if you give me an opportunity to build a strong culture.
We've been able to meet or beat our plan every single year for the last 15 years, and been able to reward our employees as a result of that. And the Shingo model and the BES have helped us get there, because it's made us better. It's made us who we are, and then we can continue that into the future.
So talent is God-given, be humble. Fame is man-given, be grateful for the fame. Conceit is self-given, be careful. Let's take a look at just a couple last slides in this set. So let's look now at leading with humility. So means we use must be as pure as the ends we seek, the same quote from Martin Luther King Jr., because even kings may fall. So the business case for this one, of leading with humility is that organizational and personal growth is enabled when leaders work to bring out the best in those they lead. They seek out and value the ideas of others, and they're willing to change when they learn something new. Leaders trust others to make good decisions. There are implications also at the societal and individual levels, which is that all growth requires vulnerability. Well, maybe that's not so true. Maybe all growth doesn't require vulnerability. But if you're not vulnerable, you're probably going to grow more slowly. So let's see what Stephen M.R. Covey says on trust. Not Stephen Covey, who you had a quote from earlier, the management consultant, but now from one of his many sons.
Hello, my name is Stephen M.R. Covey, and I am the author of the book, The Speed of Trust, The One Thing That Changes Everything. I'm also the co-founder and global practice leader of the Franklin Covey Speed of Trust practice. And our purpose is we help leaders and organizations increase trust and leverage trust in order to get better results. For me, the key starting point for each of us as we embark on a journey of continuous improvement in different forms is that it's got to be inside out. It's got to start with each of us. It's us looking in the mirror. And I use the metaphor that we get on the airplane where they show the safety video and they run the video and it says, hey, if we lose cabin pressure, oxygen mask will fall down. And then they say, put your own mask on first before helping others. That's how trust works. That's how continuous improvement works. It's an inside process. We put our own mask on first before we help others. Yes, others may need it, but the best way to help them get it, let's model it. Let's freak out with it. And then we'll have more credibility, more clout, more influence, and even more permission to help them do the same. And when our ability to lead, this goes up dramatically. So I think we diagnose best when we start at the outside and move in. And that helps us diagnose outside in. But if we want to change or develop or transform something, the best way we do that is to start at the inside and move out. That's how trust works, and that's how a journey of continuous improvement works. It's an inside-out process starting with each of us and ourselves modeling the ideal behavior that builds the trust, that gets results in a way that inspires trust. And then we begin that journey. And then we add to it the tools and the systems and the processes, the things that Shingo does so well. But Shingo's starting point always starts with that foundation of the individual and leading from the inside out. My core message on trust is so much tied into these Shingo guiding principles of lead with humility and respect for every individual, because the foundation of this is this integrity. And I define integrity as having not only just honesty and truthfulness, but also humility and courage, because we have to be humble and open to principles. So there are principles that govern, and sort of be aware of that and to be humble to that and open to it is important. And any great leader that starts with humility is in a different place than the leader that leads out with arrogance or hubris. And I like Jim Collins' level 5 leader of the paradoxical combination of deep personal humility with intense professional will. That not only helps us lead, but it also helps us create trust and inspire trust. And so humility is very foundational. And then respect for every individual, one of the guiding principles of the Shingo approach, is also so vital. It's one of the key behaviors that builds trust is demonstrating respect and showing is how you treat everybody. And the opposite of that is when you disrespect people. The dangerous counterfeit is when we show respect to some and not to others. And it kind of looks like this. We tend to show respect to those who maybe can do something for us, but don't show that same respect for those who maybe can't. But how we treat the one has an effect on the many. A doctor who disrespects a family member could lose the trust of a patient. But a doctor who shows great respect for a family member could earn that trust of the patient. How you treat the one has an effect on the many in either direction, and that's never more apparent than in respect, and respect for every individual, this guiding principle of the Shingo approach. And it's also foundational to my approach on building trust. And those two, cultural drivers, behaviors of lead with humility, respect for every individual, also are really the first two elements of my model on trust of integrity and intent. Integrity encompassing the humility, the intent encompassing the respect. And with those two pieces in place, then we're able to add to it other pieces, and they're viewed through a different context than if we don't have those two pieces in place. So I think there's a great alignment between trust and humility and respect.
So that will wrap it up for the cultural enablers dimension of the Shingo model, with its two principles of leading with respect and respecting every individual and leading with humility. Thank you. We'll cover the other principles in other presentations.